guys, it's Bryony. Welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be doing my final solo motherhood Q&A before baby boy is born. I'm sure I will probably end up doing some more of these after he's here, but I've been getting loads of questions like through Instagram and on my YouTube channel, etc. about solo motherhood and various different aspects of it. And I figured it'd be good to do one more of these videos before he actually came. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. So I put a post up on my stories on Instagram. If you don't follow me, the link to my Instagram is down below. And I asked you guys to send in your questions and I got a ton, like over 120 or something. So I definitely will not be able to answer all of them, but I'm going to answer some of the ones I think were really good today and also some of the more popular ones. So the first question that I got is, will I be doing a birth plan video? I got this question so many times. This was definitely the most popular question by far, in different various forms, like how do you feel about this type of birth? Are you going to be talking about your birth plan, etc., etc.? The answer is probably not, because at this moment in time, I don't actually have a birth plan. Every time I kind of get comfortable with like, okay, this is what I'm feeling like I want to do, I end up changing my mind and I'm like, nope, a few days later, I'm like, no, this is what I want to do. And so, yeah, I don't have a birth plan right now. I have an appointment with my consultant next week and I need to talk to her about it as well. So there's just, and the thing is, I think with babies, like they tend to be unpredictable and things can change right up at the last minute. So for me right now, I feel better not having like a solid plan and being like, this is what I want to do, because I think if I was like that and last minute they were like, actually that's not going to be possible because baby's like this or this, or like it's just, you know, if it has to change last minute, I think I would find that much more difficult to deal with than just having kind of like an open mind to, there's all these different possibilities of how I could give birth out there right now, and just being open-minded to it and how it could go is probably the best thing for me. So I'm not going to do a birth plan because I don't really have one right now. Also, my maternity leave starts sometime in February, and so I won't be able to film videos from that time without taking what's known as a kit day. I will do a video specifically on my maternity leave plans actually, because I did separately from this question get lots of questions about that. So I'm going to be doing a video on my maternity leave plans, etc., and how that works being self-employed. But from the time you take maternity leave, if you do any kind of work, like paid work, like I would be doing with YouTube editing and uploading videos, then I would have to take what's called a kit day, which is a keeping in touch day, and I don't want to do that until after he's here. So by the time I've made my decision on like birth plan stuff, it will probably be too late for me to actually film a video specifically on it, but I will definitely do a birth story video after I've had him when I come back from maternity leave. So you will hear about the birth, but you probably won't get a birth plan video. So the second question is, did you choose an open or closed donor? So this is a really good question actually. So for those of you who don't know, when you use a sperm donor, you have two different options. You can use an open ID donor or you can use a closed ID donor, otherwise known as an anonymous donor. Now, an open ID donor, what that basically means is that when the child who is donor conceived is 18, they can make contact with their donor and get in touch, usually via messaging, etc. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to meet them face to face. The donor might not want that, or the child might not want that, or they might both want to do it, but it's up to them. But they can make contact at 18. With an anonymous donor, that information is not held. The donor has said they don't want to ever be contacted, and so the child cannot do that. They cannot find out who their donor is and they cannot make contact with them at 18. Now, in the UK, anonymous donation has been illegal since, I believe it's 2005, it might be 2003, but it's been illegal for quite some time. So you can only use an open ID donor. If you want to use an anonymous donor, you'd have to go and have treatment overseas, somewhere in Europe, somewhere like Denmark or Greece, where it is still legal. However, even if it had been legal here in the UK, I would still have chosen an open ID donor because I felt personally very strongly that that is half my child's DNA. It is their right to make a decision about whether or not they want to make contact when they're older, and I felt like it wasn't my place to kind of take that away from them. So for me, it was always really important to use an open ID donor. I also did a lot of research beforehand, looking at the opinions and points of views of people who are donor conceived adults and what they were saying, and overwhelmingly it was knowing that you're donor conceived from as young as possible is the best thing, and also using an open ID donor so they can make contact in the future if they want to. And some donor conceived people do choose to make contact, it is very important to them, and some it's not. But I felt very strongly that that should be my child's decision, and so I did use an open ID donor. Question number 3 is just a really sweet one from someone saying, are you doing okay? I am doing so much better now. I am in my 3rd trimester. I don't know if it's because like psychologically I'm just closer to the end now and it doesn't feel like it's too long. And you know, just, or like my hormones are stable out or whatever, but I have felt so much better since around like 23, 25 weeks. The depression and anxiety that I experienced in my earlier pregnancy has evened out a lot more, but I'm also now getting like really good counselling and stuff and have a lot of support from the midwife team, etc. So that's all really good. Question number 4 is, what was your most bizarre pregnancy food craving? Do you know what? I genuinely don't think I've had one. Like, I've had food cravings in pregnancy. I'd say like my main craving for the majority of my pregnancy was chocolate, like chocolate cake in particular actually, but chocolatey things in general have just been like my pregnancy craving, that I've wanted to eat lots of chocolate. But I haven't had any like weird cravings. I have a friend of mine who craved eucalyptus throughout her pregnancy, and had to have like eucalyptus candles, eucalyptus oil, like everything eucalyptus, and now absolutely hates it. But in pregnancy she was obsessed with it. For me, I haven't had anything like that. I haven't like wanted to eat coal or anything, or like bite on tires or anything like that. It's just chocolate has been it. And I wouldn't say that's a bizarre pregnancy symptom, bizarre pregnancy craving. So yeah, don't think I've really had one. Question number 5 is, will you tell your child that you used a sperm donor when the time is right? So I kind of already covered this, I think, in question 2 about the open ID/closed ID donor. But yes, absolutely, I intend to tell them. I intend to tell them from as young as possible. I don't intend it to ever be a secret. I want it to always be an open thing that they know they can talk about at any time. It's a topic that we are completely open and honest about in our household. So yes, they absolutely will know that they are donor conceived. It's very important that children do know they're donor conceived as young as possible. That's the best way that we know from research and years of looking into this, that we know is the best way for children to grow up, to grow up knowing that they're donor conceived, rather than to be told at a later date. So yes, they will always know they're donor conceived. Question number 6, how many postnatal pads are a good amount to have for after baby? Oh, this is a really good question. And of course, I haven't had a baby yet, so I don't really know. But so far I've got some disposable ones for the hospital, which I will take with me. But I will also take some of my reusable ones too, in case those are really uncomfortable. And I want to switch to cloth. I think I have around 15 postnatal pads, like the really big ones. And I plan to wash a lot more with my postpartum pads than I would do with my regular period pads that I use, because typically when I use my cloth pads, I have a huge stash of cloth pads. So what I would typically do is kind of go through however many I need in my period and then wash them all at the end. Obviously, like postpartum bleeding can go on for a lot longer than that. But it's just one time that this is going to happen. So I don't want to buy like tons and tons of these pads that I may well never use again, because my periods aren't particularly heavy. Even if they might get heavier after I've had a baby, I'm planning to go back on the pill, so my periods will probably stop afterwards. So I have bought around, actually, have I paid for any? Actually, I don't think I've bought any new ones. Like, I've collected some like overnight / postnatal pads over the years that I was using overnight previously, that can also be used for postpartum. But I also got a gift from a friend of mine of some amazing Homestead Emporium postpartum pads. And I've also sewn some up myself because I had a pattern that I made, and I just decided to make some extra ones too. So I think I have around 15 postpartum pads in total now, but I will do a video specifically showing you all my postpartum pads. Question number 7, what pram do you have? So I have a little bit of a pushchair addiction, and I have way too many pushchairs. I actually have a couple of pushchairs because I've kind of collected them over my time of fostering. I'm really picky about pushchairs and what I want them to do, and so I've collected a couple sort of over the years of fostering, and like they do different things. So I have like my main pram that I probably intend to use with this little baby boy, which is the Bugaboo Fox. I really like it. Like, it's a really nice push and everything. It's a bit of a faff to fold up and down, but it's reasonably lightweight, and it's a joy to push. It's like got great suspension and everything. So that's probably kind of like my day-to-day push that I have. I also have a compact pushchair, a Bugaboo Ant, which I will keep in my car for like going into the town and stuff, because it's just so much more compact and it's easier to go in and out of coffee shops with, etc. And then I also have a mountain buggy, which is like a fully off-road pushchair, because where I live I'm really lucky, we have lots of nice parks and walks, etc. And forests to go through, and you really need like a full-on all-terrain pushchair to be able to manage those. There is no such thing as a pushchair that can be really compact in a city, like good for everyday use and good off-road. Like this just doesn't exist. So I've learnt to find the best one for each of those and just have them. So those are my kind of like 3 main pushchairs. I have a few others as well. I have like a double pushchair as well from fostering. Obviously when I have siblings that are small I use that, but I'm not going to be using that obviously with my little one. And I'm not fostering at the moment, and I don't plan to foster until quite some time after he's born. So yeah, I'd say my main pushchair that I'm planning to use with him is my Bugaboo Fox. Question number 8 is, will you foster again after having little man? I think I kind of answered this in the previous question, but I am currently planning to go back to fostering. So I stopped fostering when I was around 10 weeks pregnant when my last foster placement finished, and I was not feeling very well anyway, so I obviously told my fostering service about that, and I'm on a break now, so I will not be fostering until well after he's here. At the moment, the plan is to go back when he's around 8 months old, but there's some flexibility in that. I might decide that that's too soon for me, or I might get back in touch a little bit sooner and say, hey, actually things are going good. I might kind of start the process a bit earlier than that. But because I have had mental health problems in my pregnancy, before I go back to fostering, I'll have to have another what's called a medical review. So when you become a foster carer, they do a medical assessment, which is basically a piece of paper which you fill in with all your medical conditions, etc. And they check with your GP, and then it goes to some medical advisor who looks through it and goes, yeah, this is fine, whatever. And then you have to have that redone every 3 years. So I had that redone last year actually, but because I had mental health problems in pregnancy, they will just want me to redo that again basically before I go back. So I mean, I wouldn't be going back until I felt ready to go back anyway, but I would need to do that review again before I go back next time because of mental health problems in pregnancy. So it'll be a bit of a process to kind of get back into the swing of things afterwards anyway. But I want time for it to just be me and little man anyway. So yes, I do plan to go back to fostering, but right now my focus is on him, and that's not until quite some time in the future. The next question is, will you have a second child? This is quite a tricky one actually. A couple of people asked me this. The reason it's tricky is I'm an only child and I didn't particularly like it, as I always swore that I was not going to have an only child. However, looking at like the finances of having just one child on your own, and also having had such a tricky pregnancy, at this moment in time, I genuinely cannot see how I could have another child unless I got into a relationship with someone at some point in the future and we decided that we wanted to have a child together. That's a possibility. So at this moment in time, whether or not I have a second is very much kind of up in the air. I have no solid plan to be like, yes, I'm definitely having a second one, or no, he's definitely going to be an only child. It's kind of we need to see how things go, because, you know, things can change over the next couple of years. You know, my little boy, he might need more of my attention. It might just be actually he's better off as an only child. Originally, I was always adamant that I was never having just one. However, now that I've grown up, there are kind of advantages that I can see I had as an only child that I could potentially give to him. But I certainly wouldn't rule out having another one. Somebody separately did ask about adoption and stuff, and I am actually absolutely open to that in the future, so that could be another way to expand my family. But adoption is not a simple process, and there's complications to it and everything, so it's not as straightforward as some people imagine it might be. But it is a potential option up there if I started really thinking about it in the future. But for right now, I'm just focusing on this little man, and we will see as the future goes. But no, I have no solid plans currently for a second child. Another question somebody asked me was, do you have a picture of the donor? No, I do not. So when you use a sperm donor, there's a couple of different options you have. You can use a donor who you know very little about. So you would just literally have like the eye colour, hair colour, their ethnicity, maybe a little bit about kind of their job description, etc. And I mean, when I say job description, it's just like works in IT or is a sales assistant or, you know, business person, whatever. And maybe a little bit extra of extra information, but very, very basic. That's typically if you use a clinic donor. You also can have donors where you don't have a photograph, but you have more detail about their background. So they might have written a letter. You might be able to hear an audio recording of them. You can see like a lot of stuff about their personality. You get like a personality assessment, etc. So there's a lot of information you can get from them, but they don't have a picture. That was the kind of donor I actually ended up opting for. I wasn't particularly fussed about whether there was a picture or not. It was just I happened to find a donor profile that I really liked and he didn't have a picture. But a lot of sites, sperm donor sites, do have a baby picture of their donors, and some of the donors have baby pictures and some of them don't, and my one didn't. But there are a couple, I think 1 or 2 sperm donor banks in the US where you can get adult photos of the donor, and that for some people is really important. They want to see a photograph of the donor, like an adult photograph of them. So the only places I know do that are in the States. However, that was not important to me. Not even the baby picture was important to me. I just needed to get a good feel from the donor profile and felt like that they kind of matched what I was looking for. So no, I do not have a photo of the donor. That's a very individual thing. For some people it's important and for some it's not. The next question is, have you picked a name? Yes, I have picked his name. I will only be sharing it, however, once he is born. So in the UK, we don't announce baby names typically before a baby's been born. It's not something that you share with people. I see a lot of people doing like name reveals in America, like while they're still pregnant. That's a very American thing. Like we don't do that in the UK. So I definitely will not be sharing his name with anybody. Even like my close family and friends don't know what it is. So it'll only be after he's born that I share that with the world. Another question I got asked quite a bit was, will I be sharing his name and face online? So this is a question that I've thought through a lot because I'm kind of in two minds about it. There's the aspect of privacy for him, which is very important, but also the fact that actually everything kind of is online now, and balancing the two and what I'm comfortable with, what I'm not. And this is where I am currently at. Yes, I'm happy to share his first name online. I will not, however, be sharing his middle names. They will stay private, so you will only know his first name. And I am going to be sharing his face online, but for right now, I've decided that I've made the decision I'm comfortable with that up until he's a year old. So when he's 1 year old, I will make a decision then about if I'm happy to kind of keep doing that or not. But for now, I've just said the first year, I'm happy to share that because a lot of my videos are going to be kind of from my perspective, as a solo parent. I want to share that. I want to kind of do vlogs of like what it's like 24 hours in the life of a solo mum and, that kind of stuff, which will focus more from my perspective, but he'll obviously be in them. And actually, I know I won't have the energy to film a video specifically for YouTube about that and then film one separately which he could watch in the future, which has his face, and I wouldn't have the energy to do both. And I think he might like to see that stuff when he's older as well. And I think when children are babies, like babies generally, they're just really cute, they kick about a lot, and also their facial expressions and features, they're not very distinctive at that point. It's only as they start to get older that they become more distinctive. So I've decided that for the first year I am comfortable with it. After a year I might decide actually I'm no longer going to show his face in videos anymore, and I'm going to start, stepping up the privacy level from that point on. So at that point, I might decide that actually I'm no longer going to be showing his face in videos anymore. Might still be okay, kind of like side on Instagram and stuff, but might kind of step away from it more on YouTube, but less so with Instagram. Or I might decide actually no faces at all from that point on. So I don't know really from that point. I'm going to let future Bryony kind of make decisions about that. But for right now, I am going to be comfortable with it for the first year while he's like small and, has pretty indistinguishable features. They do have different personalities and different features when they're a baby and when they're younger, but it's less pronounced than when they're older. So for that period of time, I'm okay with it. But as he gets older, I will probably start taking him out of the picture when it comes to social media. The next question is, will you be exclusively using cloth nappies for the baby? The answer to this is no, I'm not. I am not going to use cloth nappies at all when he's newborn. I've learned from my time fostering that, especially when you're doing things on your own, even though I'll be staying with my parents getting extra help, just make things as easy as possible for yourself. So I will be using disposable nappies while he's newborn, and then when he's probably around 6 to 8 weeks, that's when I will start using some of the one size cloth nappies that I do have. But I'm never going to be really strict to myself of only using cloth nappies from that point on. I'm going to be flexible, so it might be that I think actually going out and about, I'm going to use disposables because it's easier, and we'll use cloth at home. A lot of people, I think, get put off the idea of using cloth nappies because they feel like they have to do all or nothing. And actually, even using like one cloth nappy a day versus disposables all the time makes a big difference. After a year, you'd have 365 less disposable nappies going into landfill. So like one a day makes a difference. So I am planning to be flexible with it and not put any pressure on myself. I'm going to use them as much as I can. But if I find it easier to use disposables for certain things, then I will do that. And the final question is, will you be filming the labour/birth? This was another pretty popular question. The answer is, I'm hoping to film some footage of my labour and birth, depending on how it goes. I'm certainly not going to put pressure on myself to do so, and my mum is going to be my birth partner, so I'll probably leave it up to her to just kind of like get some clips and videos every now and then. I'm not planning to film like I do with my vlogs, where I kind of go, okay, now it's 10 o'clock and I've had my first contraction, blah blah blah, and then film it specifically all the way through. But I'm planning to get clips of it, and then when I finish my maternity leave and start coming back from maternity leave, I will film a kind of sit down video going through my birth story, and I'll probably use some of that footage in there. So it won't be like a full-on labour and birth vlog, but I will be telling my labour and birth story, and hopefully I will have some footage from it too. But you just never know how things are going to work out, so I'm not going to put any pressure on myself with it. And I won't be sharing it immediately after I give birth. I did say earlier on in the video that I'm going to do a maternity leave specific video, kind of like on the details of that, but basically like the first 3 months after he's born, I'm planning to not do any work at all, so I will not be editing and uploading any videos. I'm going to try and pre-film some videos before I take my maternity leave, so that there's one video going out each of those months I'm on maternity leave, so there is still something going up on my channel, but I will not be editing and uploading during that time. So I will not be sharing the birth story until after those 3 months are up and I start to kind of come back to work slowly. But yes, I am hoping to get some little bits of footage from it as well, and it kind of depends how I feel on the day too. I'm not putting pressure on myself for it, but if I do manage to get some footage and I'm happy to share it, then yes, I will be sharing that. So there we go. Those were some of your questions that you asked me. I'm sorry I couldn't get through to everyone's questions. There were so many that I got asked, but I just wouldn't have time to fit them all in on here, and hopefully they will get answered anyway as time goes on. But thank you so much for watching, guys. Do please subscribe, and I will see you next week. Bye everyone, take care.